Good morning. Welcome. It is Tuesday, the 27th of August 2019, and you're listening to Morning Call. I'm Fab from Hamburg, here to bring you the tech news. And indeed, if you are watching a little bit of a different look, I thought I'd change the look a little bit. Anyway, yes, I hope you're doing well. I hope everything is fine. I'm trying to wean myself off the allergy medications with autumn finally slowly arriving. That should be a thing that's possible. We will see. Anyway, let's get into the tech news here. And first off, as the register says, breaking news: Apple unbreaks, break on jailbreak, break. The fix for the fix is in. So apparently there was a jailbreak, the first one in years, which I kind of missed because it broke right before I took a day off for my birthday. So I think it kind of broke on my birthday or something. So I kind of missed that. Johan says I have to get used to morning call being on time. Well, I'm trying. I won't promise anything, but I'm certainly trying. So there was a jailbreak, and the first one in ages, apparently, and security vulnerability. If you don't know what a jailbreak is, that you can use to basically flash your own software on the iPhone, which you're not supposed to do, which is not good. Apple doesn't like that. So they now fixed the security vulnerability, but apparently that problem was. So apparently there was a like the security vulnerability had been fixed before, and Apple thought they had fixed it, but apparently they didn't. And then of course there was the jailbreak thing, and then now they fixed it all. The register is saying this is not the first time Apple has had to patch CVE 2019 8605. The vulnerability was first addressed with the iOS 12.3 update in May of this year. Users running iOS 12.2 had been using the vulnerability as a catalyst to jailbreak procedures that allow users to install and run non-approved software on their iPhones and iPads. The flaw was thought to have been closed for good, but up until last week, when word broke that the Uncover jailbreak tool was able to unlock 12.4 handsets by once again exploiting the flaw. It seems Apple had unintentionally rolled back the 12.3 patch that addressed CVE 2019-8605, and the jailbreak exploit for the bug that had last worked in 12.2 was once again succeeding on new handsets. And now they fixed it again, so now we're all safe. Even if you are sympathetic to people who jailbreak their iPhones, like I am, but you're not doing it, you should fix this vulnerability. I mean, it will prevent you from jailbreaking your iPhone, but it will also prevent bad guys from jailbreaking your iPhone and putting malware on there that you can't remove. Sorry, my hat is not compatible with my mic stand. Maybe I need another setup. As much as I like hats. Very interesting. You might have seen the new phones from Samsung. There's the Galaxy S10 and 10 Plus, the Galaxy Note 10 and 10 Plus, and I saw a very interesting story. Golem did a test. German IT news site Golem from Berlin did a test on the Note 10 Plus. And they're basically saying, I'm you know me. I'm not like huge into phones. Like for me, a phone has to work and look kind of nice, and that's it. So I'm not a spec whore, so to say. So I'm not all interested in all these phone news all the time, which just seem to be specs. But they were basically saying the interesting thing is now that Samsung can't really differentiate the 10s and the Note. So the Galaxy S and the Note, they can't really differentiate them anymore. The only difference seems to be the pen and the apps for that. And basically, they're saying it's a 300 euro pen because the phone is 300 euros more expensive and doesn't really have anything extra except the pen and some stuff, some software for that. And they're basically saying you have to decide if it's worth it to you. But basically, they try to invent all these different things you can do with the pen. But basically, it's for note taking. And if you like that, you wanna, yeah, that's the point where you kind of need to ask yourself if you want to pay 300 euros for that. Otherwise, it's not worth it, they're saying. So back when they introduced the Note, of course, it was like this huge thing, and phones were generally smaller. I still like smaller phones, but now that the Samsung S is pretty much the same size as the Note, it's like not that much difference apparently. I thought that was interesting. Just something to keep in mind if you are in the market for an Android phone. That might be something you want to look at. If you're German, you can look at the Golem story. It's right there on their front page. If not, I guess I'm pretty sure English outlets also have stories on this. I just read that this morning and then was too slack to look anything else up because they seem to have done a nice job over at Golem there. Speaking of Android, Google, I don't know, a little bit of a tenuous link. Something is, do you hear that? I need to fix something is rattling. I don't like that. What the fuck? I like to bump my table without it rattling. Anyway, Google is testing a new feature for some users, apparently, where if you search text, you've seen this before, you search text, they give you like, mostly it's like the first result. It's like a curated result. They give you a website, and then basically the snippet in the website that most pertain to what you searched for. And so the search terms get highlighted. I think they did that before, but now for some users, they're obviously just testing this. If you click on the search result, it'll link you to the website and it will highlight in yellow the bit that that you've searched for. It'll also like anchor you to that position on the page, which is interesting, something new. I'll have to see. I'll have to experience it for myself if I to see if I find it extremely annoying. Oh, by the way, I need to just seeing that I need to say thank you to Rucksack for subscribing. Thank you, much appreciated. I just noticed that now. And then, this is already my favorite story of the week. I'm a bit biased since I wrote this particular one. So if you don't read German, this is a story on the register about this. But basically, so a few weeks ago, there was this well-known security conference called Black Hat. If you're into security, it's one of the biggest in the world. It's together with the Chaos Communication Congress in Germany, pretty much the big two conferences. And then there's also like DEF CON, which happens around Black Hat, because Black Hat's very it's very businessy, pretty much. It's still hardcore security stuff, but it caters a lot to business interests. The tickets are very expensive, and there's always this DEF CON, which is this scrappy conference, which happens around it, which is a bit more like the CCC Congress. But this year at Black Hat, there was this talk by a company called Crown Sterling, which introduced a technology called Time AI, for which they got roundly made fun of. There were people in the talk shouting at them to please stop talking. They were talking bullshit. They should be ashamed of themselves. Black Hat would take this all down. There were videos on on Twitter about this. I saw that. I found that already funny, but wasn't really something you would report on in the news. But now, Corin Sterling has sued the company running Black Hat, which is a UK company. Corin Sterling is a Californian company, but they're suing them in the US because, Black Hat US. They're basically saying we paid $115,000 for this talk, and then we got laughed at. And your bloody code of conduct says, we should have been treated fair and stuff, and we weren't treated fair. Now, of course, there's two sides. There's Corin Sterling, who are saying they're the victims, and then there's the people who are actually were at the talks, which are some of the ones they're suing 10 John Does. There is a guy on Twitter called Dan Guido, who is a CEO of a well-known, respected security company, who was in the talk, who was actually in a video shouting at the guy, saying he should be ashamed of himself. He got later kicked out of the room by Black Hat Security for just repeatedly, loudly disagreeing with them. It's kind of hard to figure out how much merit this talk actually had, because Black Hat took the slides down, and Corin Sterling, which by the way has nothing to do with the British Crown. Hello, I am the Queen of England. I would like to distance myself from this cryptology company. They have nothing to do with our fine royalty. Yeah, they're from California. They're just called that because they think it's cool, or they think it legitimizes them or something. Anyway, they, if you go to their website, they also, they don't have the slides. All they have is basically a press release and some supreme bullshit on the Time.io website, timeai.io website. And they have a video, which I won't play here, because if I start playing this, and I shit you not, if you're interested in security at all, chances are, this is 4 minutes long, and chances are after 2 minutes, blood will start seeping from your eyes. I had this 4-minute video, I had to watch in 3 intervals. I had to take a break, go off, make myself a coffee, relax a bit, keep watching it till I couldn't take it anymore, and then had to stop again just to research the story. Because that video, you will, if you want to laugh, watch that video. It's really good. So if you go to timeai.io, you will. This is what their website looks like. I mean, their video is great. It's very well produced, but it's full of utter bullshit. They're talking about the DNA. Some new prime numbers they've discovered, the theory of everything, quantum cryptology. At one point, they actually, so to explain how their Time AI stuff works, they're actually saying they take one crypto key from the past and one from the future. Crypto keys from the future, and mix it. I don't know. It's hilarious. It's a great story. So I don't think the lawsuit will have any merit, because basically California and New York, where they're suing the Black Hat guys, have something called there's something called in the US called anti-SLAPP laws. SLAPP is a lawsuit that is designed to just silence people who are publicly speaking out against you. And they have wide-ranging protections against that in the US, being, very freedom of speech oriented. And so I don't think the lawsuit will have any merit, especially when they will have to explain their technology to a judge. And I think if I was the guy on the other end that's been sued, I would argue that they were complaining that they were called snake oil, their technology. I would actually argue that their technology is snake oil, because I don't think it has any technical merit, and I think it's just designed to get money out of people. Asky says, from the future, count me in. Yeah, it sounds good. So the video is great. It's it's well produced, good music, it's good animations, some good voiceover work. It sounds like this, these middle class, middle of the road Hollywood movies, where they're just action movies with Bruce Willis or something, or some aging action star. And then there's this segment in the middle where they're basically in the movie watching a video, and they're like, "Oh, so how are we fighting the aliens?" And then they show this video where they're like, "Oh yes, we spliced alien DNA in 5 dimensions and used the crypto key from the free." That is exactly what that video is like. And if their Black Hat talk was anything like that, I am actually, I think, no, I'm not shocked, but see, they're lucky that the word Black Hat, if they had been, if they had fired off a bullshit fireworks like this at DEF CON or at God Beware, the Chaos Communication Congress, I think people would have thrown things at them. I love that they're going, well, but your code of conduct says, well, I think the code of conduct says you have to be fair to people, and I think if you're bullshitting like that, it's just fair to tell you it's bullshit. So that was hilarious. That's a great story. You can read up on that. And Register has a story on this as well if you want to read it in English. I gave my best to inject the appropriate amount of sarcasm into that story for Heise, because it just had to be done. And yeah, so 2 more news items from the gaming realm here. One I found really interesting. Golem reporting. Golem is reporting on the Epic Game Store exclusives. These, I've talked about these. How this pisses me off. Like these exclusive deals for game stores, and and basically they're talking about companies who decline it. So one thing that comes out in the story, which I find interesting, is that apparently there are 2 kinds of deals with Epic. So if you're a smaller guy, they kind of go, so you'll be on the Epic Game Store, but it has to be exclusive. You can't sell your game anywhere else. And then to games where, for example, CDs Project Red, who are now working on Cyberpunk 2077, which is a hit game coming out, I think, was it next year? Anyway, hit game, and they're basically saying they can't pressure them into just Epic exclusive because it's just like a hugely anticipated game. So those companies actually get a deal where they also can publish somewhere else. So this is why CD Projekt Red has put, obviously GOG is their own store. It's in GOG. It's on Steam. And they have like this, Golem has this quote from like a CD Projekt Red guy who says, we realize that exclusive games obviously don't work for us. I think what you are actually experiencing there is that they don't work. And he says, we don't want to minimize, we don't want to limit the number of people that have access to our games. And you think, like, if you this is minimal. So rant incoming. So this has been a pet peeve of mine for ages. So if capitalism works as it should, right? If we have actually, if you actually self-regulating markets, then an exclusive like this wouldn't make any sense under any circumstances. Because what you want is you want to get your product everywhere. You want to have the most amount of people possible able to buy your product. And just saying, oh no, today we don't want your money. You're in the wrong store. We don't want to. No. You want to give us 60 euros for this game? No, you're not on our store. We don't want your money. That's just idiotic. And obviously, I mean, as Golem says in the story, Golem actually says so for especially indie developers, this is or all developers really, this is very, the Epic Game Store is very attractive because they get 88% of the money and not 70 like on Steam, right? But I don't think that is actually, I think they're also saying that they get a prepay, they get some money in advance. They basically get in advance, which is great for like a small companies. Like if you write a book, you're putting yourself out there. It's your expense. Also, if you're making a game, right? And then if you get in advance, that's great. But I don't actually believe that. I think actually Epic is paying out lump sums. I think they just give you money. I think if they really want a game, I think they just go to the publisher and say, well, here's $500,000. If you sign this contract with us and your game is exclusive for us for, let's say, 2 years or something. I think that's how Microsoft has done it as well, with the consoles, and that's how Sony's doing it. So it kind of makes sense in these like perverted, warped markets where, like, I mean, with consoles, it does make like a tiny bit of sense because, like, you know, you're a company like Microsoft, like Sony, who are spending millions and millions and millions of probably billions of dollars in R&D to develop this console, to put it out there, and then don't even make money on the console most of the time, so they need games to recoup that money. And it makes sense for them because they have a really big audience, to go, well, you know, if we have an exclusive game, then we recoup money. And it, to a limited amount, you know, it also makes sense for a publisher who's like, okay, their platform is big enough. And it does make sense if you don't want to port it. Like, so if you specifically develop for the PS4 and they give you a deal and you're like, okay, I've got guaranteed millions of people who will buy this, and I don't need to do any development for any other platforms, that's great. But we're talking a PC here. Like, you know, the difference from putting a game, a Windows executable, on the Epic Store and the Steam Store is literally a click of a button. So there's absolutely no reason why you would do that, except if you think maybe. So if you are convinced that your game is great and will sell to loads of people, there's no reason why you would do that, because you would make more money if you put it on more stores. Now, the thing that Epic has right now also is PR, right? If you're like, oh, we're the newest Epic exclusive, you get featured in their store, there's lots of eyeballs on there, there's more eyeballs than if you're just somewhere on Steam. So that's something. You get a lot of press probably, even though it's kind of negative press because people are shouting, why are you only on Epic? But that's still press. But really, it doesn't make no sense. I think it's great that there's, like, you know, people like CG Projekt Red who are just like, fuck you, fuck. They're not Russian, they're Polish, right? But they can only make Russian accent. Epic Game Store, fuck you. We're going on every store. In Soviet Russia, game epics you. Anyway, so, and then Golem's also talking about a developer of a horror adventure called Dark, where he was like on Reddit, he was like, they offered me that, but they offered me only an exclusive deal. I didn't want to do that. Also, mostly because I already promised everybody it would be on Steam. So that's a good guy developer. I like that guy. Another video game story. The thing that is, so if you're not watching this right now, you're probably on another Twitch channel, which means you're probably right now watching somebody play World of Warcraft Classic, which is the hot new thing that is sweeping the nation. I mean, this was announced ages ago. WoW Vanilla, WoW Classic. So Blizzard has launched it now. So what it is, it's basically World of Warcraft 1.12, which is was the last patch before the first expansion, the Burning Crusade. So basically a game from 2006, but they're not using, obviously, the old game. I mean, obviously, it's not really that obvious, but since it's like a cloud software, you'd kind of think. So what they're actually doing is probably they're using the current engine, the current code, so it doesn't really completely look like WoW did back then. So the graphics are a bit nicer, which is great. You know, effects are nicer, but they have all the original rules and, you know, quests and stuff. It looks really good. It does kind of look a bit like old school WoW. Wow, it looks like a bit of an HD upgrade or something. You know, like they increased the texture size. The polygons are quite old school WoW still. And the skybox, my god. But it looks quite cool. I actually I read this morning on Heise, and I was like, I have a little bit of an itch. You know, I wanna, oh my god. It's just like, this is like, I feel young again. I can still remember. So this is 14 years ago. When did WoW come out? 2012? Can't mix that up. Gotta look that up quickly. 2004, but that's okay. Yeah, so that's still 2005. Yeah, 14 years ago. February 2005 in Germany, in Europe. I'm pretty sure I played it in that summer. Man, I spent so much time in World of Warcraft at the beginning. I can remember. So I was just living in Bonn. I just had my first flat with my girlfriend, now wife, and we were playing so much WoW. I mean, Jesus Christ. I can still remember the room, and we had desks. My desk was like here, and her desk was over there on a wall. And on the weekends, we'd just sit there in pajamas and play World of Warcraft. And then we would talk in in-game chat. We'd be like, "Oh, can you make another cup of coffee in in-game chat?" I'm like, "Yeah, I will, but you need to kind of have my back here so that I'm not get killed when like the monsters respawn or whatever." Oh man, those those were the good old days. Yeah. So I don't know. Got a hankering to jump back into WoW now. Let's see. Maybe I'll watch somebody on Twitch today play that. Anyway, that's it for me today. I'll be back tomorrow with more tech news. Until then, just keep your software secure and just remember, just the best thing to do is just use 5-dimensional encryption and use a software key from the past and one from the future, and everything will be great. Just always remember that. See you tomorrow. Goodbye.